Alright, what's going on, everybody? So, I've watched dozens of anime this year, and among the few, or I should say handful, that were a big surprise to me was one called Radiant. So, my brother told me about this anime, I want to say about 7 or 8 months ago, something like that. But he told me about that, and then, you know what, I decided over the last couple of weeks that I would finally give it a try. I've heard mostly negative things about this show from the anime community online. Some people claiming that it was just another friendship power anime in the vein of Fairy Tail. Others, others just, simply dismissed it, calling it generic. I mean, I've seen complaints about the amount of filler and how the show is slow paced, which is usually accompanied by a group of people screaming, "Read the manga, it's better. Read the manga." But despite all that negativity, there was the vocal minority that has praised the character development for the main characters, Seth and Melee or Melly. I already know I'm gonna probably mispronounce that name a few times, so forgive me. But yeah, so Seth and Melee, I'm hearing good things about the characters progressing, and I'm seeing that a lot of people are enjoying the second season, which has just recently begun over the past few weeks. And so I guess I want to start off with a question. So, what do I think about Radiant? Is it generic, like some people claim it is? Or is it a series that is being overshadowed by the bigger anime this season, like Fire Force, Doctor Stone, My Hero Academia, and the like? And, well, as you might have guessed from the title of this video, I think that Radiant is brilliant. Now, let me make one thing clear before I go on talking about this, because I know some of y'all are going to go crazy in the comment section. Radiant is not a 10 out of 10 god tier anime by no means. At its best, it's a 8 out of 10, and at its worst, it's a 7 out of 10. Um, However, I would say, I believe that this show has the potential to at least rise to a 9 out of 10 if the show continues to improve on a few of its shortcomings and stays consistent to the level of quality that was displayed throughout its first season. I mean, I have high hopes for this. Before I go any further in this review, let me explain what Radiant is so that we're all on the same page. Radiant is an anime based off of a manhwa. Yes, you heard me correctly. Manhwa, not manga. Radiant is a French manga created by Tony Valente, and I guess that's how you pronounce his name. And fun fact, it is the first French manhwa to be published in Japan. Radiant is about a boy named Seth living in a world where monsters called Nemesis, they fall from the sky, cursing those that come into contact with them. Those that are cursed by the Nemesis can utilize a power called Fantasia to wield magic. People that can wield magic are called, yes, you probably guessed it, sorcerers. Some sorcerers use their magic to protect people from the threat of the Nemesis. However, just as people feared the Nemesis, the cursed sorcerers are regarded as infected, and they're basically persecuted. After meeting a group of bandit sorcerers while a Nemesis attacked the village, his master Alma tells Seth about the rumor of Radiant, and Seth decides to go on a journey to find Radiant and rid the world of the Nemesis threat, hoping that one day sorcerers will be treated respectfully and that everyone can live peacefully without fear. And so that's basically a good synopsis, I would say, of what this series is. Now that I've given that brief explanation, I have a lot I need to say in regards to the negativity surrounding the series. I truly believe that Tony Valente has created something special with Radiant and isn't being given enough credit. His work deserves more exposure. I don't agree at all with the claims that this anime is generic or that it suffers from the same friendship power trap a series like Fairy Tail has been ridiculed for having that. I'm starting to feel like some people are going out of their are kind of going out of their way, uh, throwing around that generic label on everything nowadays. Yes, it's easy to see that Volante was inspired by Oda's One Piece anime. This show is similar to One Piece, but Volante manages to not only set Radiant apart from the anime that inspired it, but from the other shows that are in the shonen genre as well. There have been plenty of shows featuring wizards using magic in the shonen genre. For example, Hiro Mishima's Fairy Tail and Yuki Tabata's Black Clover. The difference is how magic and sorcerers are perceived in the world of Radiant. The use of magic is celebrated in Fairy Tail and is treated as a necessity in Black Clover. And if you watch Black Clover, y'all know I'm not lying. Magic is everything. They've said that multiple times in that show in the beginning. In Radiant, magic usage isn't established as a natural part of Radiant's world, but it's something that certain people can use as a result of being cursed by a nemesis. Most most normal humans are they're scared of sorcerers. Some are so afraid that some are so afraid that they'll hunt they'll hunt them down and try to kill them, as depicted throughout the first season. Volante's handling of the prejudice theme helps the show to stand out, unlike the two aforementioned series. Now, obviously, because I know somebody's gonna point this out, obviously there's been other anime series that have tackled this theme before. Full Metal Alchemist and the Ishvalans, for instance. Naruto with the Jinchurikis, right? And Black Clover with the Commoners, the Forsaken Realm, the Royals, stuff like that in Black Clover. And then there's many other examples I can give. However, this show explores this theme in such a way, they do it so extensively during its first season in a way that most series haven't. I want to avoid spoilers as much as I can in this review, so I'll just give a brief example. Seth eventually befriends a researcher referred to as Doc and his assistant named Melly. They eventually accumulate a massive debt and decide to take a job in a place called Rumbletown. This story arc introduces a few new characters: a mysterious bandaged sorcerer named Grimm, a captain in the Inquisition, Comrade of Marburg, and a sorcerer that can control Nemesis named Hamlin. One of the first major villains, Comrade of Marburg, is completely xenophobic and manipulates the hatred the people of Rumbletown have towards sorcerers to exterminate immigrants. Comrade lies to the people of Rumbletown, claiming that some immigrants and sorcerers have created a terrorist group and asked them to hunt down any immigrants and sorcerers that they can find. Comrade is willing to do anything to achieve his goal of purging Rumbletown of immigrants, even if it means sacrificing innocent lives. Hamlin has experienced cruelty at the hands of those that despise sorcerers and wants revenge for something that happened years ago involving Comrade and some of the people that lived in the town. She was willing to kill anyone that stood in the way, regardless of whether they had any involvement in a tragedy that drove her to attack the town. These were great villains whose backstories and actions are used to depict how bigotry can be the cause of pain and suffering for different groups of people. Volante even examines this theme with Seth and the military organization, the Inquisition. Seth's first encounter with the Inquisition was when Captain Dart Dragonoff captures him, Melly, and Doc. This brief experience with Dragonoff made Seth believe that the Inquisition was filled entirely with people that despise sorcerers. Likewise, Dragonoff was unwilling to give Seth or Melly a chance in the beginning. When Seth meets a friend of Alma named Yaga later in the season, he tells Seth that he shouldn't believe that everyone in the Inquisition is an enemy harboring hatred for sorcerers. Doing so would make Seth just as bad as those that prejudge and persecute people that have been cursed. The oppression, the oppression and hostility that the sorcerers face in Radiant because of their curse and the ability to wield magic reminded me so much more of X-Men than anything that I've seen in anime. And that might seem like such a strange property to compare Radiant to, but the way the sorcerers are discriminated against is exactly how the mutants are demonized in X-Men movies and TV shows like we've seen for years. In my opinion, Volante has created a unique world that is interesting and it shouldn't be dismissed as generic. Radiant is not, I repeat, Radiant is not One Piece in the sky with magic thrown in. Get that out of y'all heads. Don't even think that. Because just like One Piece, Radiant has a very lighthearted tone and is filled with personality and comedy. But just like Oda, Volante isn't afraid to tackle serious themes with his characters. The first season of Radiant is 21 episodes, and according to what I've been told, episodes 6, 7, 8, and 10, they all contain filler. Some may feel that the pacing suffered due to these 4 episodes, but to be honest, I was still entertained by these episodes. I'm glad we got episodes 6 and 8 because it showed Seth developing as a character slightly and getting stronger through training. Now, I'd argue that these episodes make Seth and the season as a whole better because without these episodes, we wouldn't get to see the effort Seth put in order to learn magic he uses later on when they go to Rumbletown. And, okay, let me be clear. So, I've criticized other series in the past, right? Just to give examples, Dragon Ball Super, Hunter x Hunter, Fairy Tail, probably others. When characters just suddenly pull some great amazing power, some great amazing move, or transformation out of nowhere without any on-screen training. You know, I've complained before, right? These 2 episodes, what did I say, 6 and 8? These 2 episodes, regardless of how brief, they show Seth struggle with his training, so that later on, when he starts using new magic that you haven't seen him use yet, it's really easy to accept that he worked hard in order to learn those magical skills. With that being said, the claims that this show is just another, friendship power anime are ridiculous. Keep in mind that I haven't read the manga, so maybe later on this show will, maybe it will pull some crap like Fairy Tail did. And if it does, then I'll gladly admit that I was wrong. But just for now, based off of the first season, I'd say that Seth never overcame an obstacle simply because of the bonds that he and his friends shared. Even when Seth does finally transform, Volante had already effectively set up a mystery regarding his massive power and his lineage. Seth as a character does indeed fall into a familiar character archetype that you've probably seen in other shonen series before. He's very naive, he can be reckless at times. However, Seth crosses paths with many people in Season 1. Yaga, Hamlin, the Bravery Quartet leader Don Bossman, the guy from the Inquisition, Captain Dragonoff, all of whom cause him to question himself and his goal. Who are you doing this for? Whose side are you on? Seth struggles to answer such questions and comes to the realization that things aren't always as black and white as they seem. By the end of the season, Seth is unsure of himself and he fears that he may become the monster that he promised Alma early in the season he wouldn't be. Seth's inner and external conflict, as well as his gradual growth, both combat wise and as a character, character wise, is what kept me invested in his journey. I love that Volante challenges Seth early on in the series rather than wait until later in the series, like a lot of series have done. Radiant began to feel more like a coming of age story, with Seth slowly learning just how naive and narrow minded his thinking was in the beginning and maturing enough to make a tough decision at the end. Unlike a certain series that I guess I can, uh, it will remain nameless, but y'all probably know which one I'm referring to. Radiant's first season is laser focused on telling Seth's story, and it gives you plenty of reasons to care about the character. Volante does a great job of introducing new characters and introducing characters as the season progressed. Melly and Captain Dragonoff were my favorite out of the entire main cast, though. At first, I wasn't the biggest fan of Captain Dragonoff, but the season does spend some time fleshing him, and I would say like maybe two or three of his crew members out. He's a likable antagonist that doesn't abuse the power of his position, and is one of the handful of characters introduced from the Inquisition that actually has a moral compass. Melly, man, Melly is probably my favorite character in the show. And I'm noticing something with me watching these shows lately. Like Noelle from Black Clover was like one of my favorites, and then with this show we have Melly. Melly is probably one of my favorites, and the reason why, like, so her curse gave her a split personality, and she reminds me a lot of a long forgotten Dragon Ball character, Launch. I know some of y'all probably forgot that character even existed. I know. Akira Toriyama probably forgot too. But thankfully, Volante doesn't switch her personality constantly. Like her personality ain't switching constantly just for gags. Which, if he were to do that, it would very much, it would devalue the character. The first season doesn't dive too much into Melly's backstory, but we do get just a hint. We get a few hints at something that might have happened in the past, and it's made clear, multiple times that she is frustrated by her dual personality. I really like her character design also. In fact, I would say most of the character designs are really good in this show, in my opinion. Doc, though, I would say that Doc is probably the weakest. He's probably the weakest out of the main cast. Both as a character, character wise, and then design wise. Still, the character is used for comedy relief that works more often than not. I don't really have much negative to say about this series, surprisingly. So far, my issues, I guess you can say, is mostly with the production. I mean, when it comes to the story and the characters, like I've said so far, I've been surprised by it. Based off of what people were saying about this, I was just expecting this to be middle of the road, but my biggest issues with it would be production wise. Production wise, and just like with the voice acting. I said this numerous times on this channel, but I'm no expert when it comes to animation, but I can tell this thing must have been made on a smaller budget than the bigger shonen anime. I mean, the animation is at its best during the climax of the arc in Rumbletown, and then also that episode. I want to say a few episodes near the end of the season. The voice acting, though. So the voice acting is a bit of a mixed bag. I would say that Seth's voice actor is okay, but his pronunciation of character names like Melly, that just, it sounded too inconsistent. Caitlin Glass, I know some of y'all might recognize that name. She's great as Melly. She's she's been in a lot of stuff. My Hero Academia. She's I think she's I think she's Ashido. I think she's Ashido. I think in that, but she's good as Melly. But Sean Gann, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, Sean Gann. His voice acting for Doc, that takes some getting used to. He sounds like he's doing an impression of kind of sounds like he's doing a impression of an Italian from New York, and it kind of sounds weird at first. Eric Vell as Grim and Dragonov's voice actor. Uh, I would say that Dragonov's voice actor, Dragonov's voice actor and Grim, they hit the mark more times than not. Um, there were times where like the background nameless characters or Inquisition soldiers, they just sounded bored and kind of lifeless. So they can kind of improve on the voice acting. But I would say overall, I really enjoyed the first season of Radiant. Like I said, I was expecting this show to be really just middle of the road. I would recommend this show for anyone who's a fan of One Piece or just simply loves the shonen genre. If the animation and the voice acting improves in season two and there is less filler, this series may gain more fans, and get the recognition that I think it deserves. Let me know what you guys think about Radiant, because I'm pretty sure some of y'all have seen this show. Like the video, subscribe if you guys enjoyed watching and everything. And thank you guys for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.